there, maybe we can get together like for dinner or something, or whatever. Just hang out. That'd be cool.
Sure, I'll look into it, see what I can do, see if I can get time off work or something.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Hey guys, looks like Ronnie joined us.
Excellent. How you doing, Ronnie?
I'm doing all right.
Sounds good. All right. Well, I had Nick mute your mic.
How do I do that?
See that little? Hold on, because like Nick and I are in the same room. This is right there.
Okay.
So that way that'll eliminate the echo, right? Because you don't hear the echo anymore, right?
No.
That worked. Guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So here's the thing. I thought that we might do an experiment of kind of like talking, rather than saying like I did this and they did that. Well, the universe made us and all, but that's going to be a bit complicated. Ronnie, as long as we have you on there, is there kind of like a topic that you would want to explore and you want to devote the podcast to?
I explore all the shit, so I don't care.
Say that again?
I don't care. I don't mind which topic we discuss or anything like that. So.
Oh, okay, David, Chandler, you have any ideas or?
Well, not at the moment. I'm open. I'm ready for anything just about. And I just added Jamie to the call.
Excellent. Jamie, how you doing?
Not too bad. Yourself?
I'm good. All right, so then I've got a suggestion. Nick's mom watches our Manhattan show, our live Manhattan show, and she said, when we talk about how understanding that nobody has a free will helps our personal relationships, that really is something that people resonate with. So let's try to focus more on that. Do we want to how about the idea of blame? How free will lessens blame in relationships. Because then maybe for the podcast after that, we can say we can talk about how free will lessens guilt in relationships.
How does free will lessen blame in relationships?
Well, we're going to get into that.
Actually, George, I think you misphrased it. It's the fact knowing that we don't have a free will. You said free will lessens blame and guilt.
Chandler, thank you very much. Yes, I didn't get much sleep last night.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. So did you want me to host it like I usually do, or?
Absolutely. You do a great job.
Okay, I'm starting my recorder. 1, 2, 3. Hello, welcome to Free Will, Science, and Religion. I'm Chandler Klebs, and I'm here with George Ortega, David Joseph, Nick Vale, Roni Cairns, and Jamie Soden. Actually, I don't even know how I say Ronnie's last name, but anyway, our topic for today is about how understanding that nobody has a free will helps us not to blame people, and how this can help us in our everyday lives and all our relationships with other people. This isn't just some abstract philosophical nonsense that doesn't matter. This is something that applies to us every day, and how people are blaming people for stuff that they really didn't choose. And the more you understand about a person's history, the more you understand how they are, and you don't judge them. And there is some really awful sound coming from somewhere.
Guys, is your sound coming out all right? Because I have Nick. Are you hearing all this?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. There's something wrong with my headset, but keep going. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm having the same issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of like cutting in and cutting out, real fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure where it's coming from. But yeah. So anyway, we were going to talk about how we don't blame people when we understand they didn't choose to be who they are or what they are. And I actually can't think of any examples right off the top of my head right now. Does anyone have an example of this sort of thing?
All right, I got an example. My last girlfriend, she was wonderful. I mean, best girlfriend I ever had. Never got angry and stuff. But she did one thing that used to frustrate me. I'd meet her. She'd say, "Meet me here," a certain time and all. and she would get there maybe like an hour and a half later. I'm not, and I could never understand it, so I'm trying to kind of I'm trying to I'm trying to remind myself, it's not her that's doing this. It's the universe that's making her do this. But the theme would be for example, somebody, doesn't arrive on time, and then she actually would do this routinely, pretty much every time.
Did you try buying her a new watch?
But the thing is, she's such a wonderful person. I'm aside from that, completely wonderful. Basically, all right, how would you guys apply, because I could say it, but how would you guys apply the unfree will to situations like that?
Yeah, well, you would look at the causes. You might ask, what's the causes of this? Why she's always late or something like that. You might ask her what it is, rather than saying, you evil person, you're always late. You would be like, well, what's the trouble that keeps you from coming? When you said you would, or something like that, would be more how I would handle it.
Yeah, I doubt she's purposely being an hour and a half late just to annoy you. I would say it's a combination of factors that are probably out of her control as to why she's being late.
Well,
yeah. Yes. Yeah, basically you both are on target, because to the extent that I wasn't blaming her intellectually, then I would ask her about it, and I learned that it's not me. And not only should I not take it personally because she doesn't have a free will, I shouldn't take it personally because that's the way she is with everyone. So you're right. And again, it was my understanding that it wasn't up to her, that she wasn't fundamentally to blame, helped me to kind of not really become so angry with her, and helped me to kind of get that information just by asking her.
Yeah, that's great. Let's see. Perhaps if there's another example that we can think of. Well, here's an example. Is for example, people could a lot of vegetarians and vegans. They blame the carnivores. And I like to use this as an example sometimes, because they blame people for being immoral and and killing these animals by buying meat or other animal products. And what's interesting about it is that what they often forget is that they themselves once didn't know better. A lot of them. Sure, there's a few people they've grown up that way where, eating any animal is wrong, but a lot of people just grew up in a carnivorous culture where everybody's eating bacon and everything, and so what's interesting is when you understand that these people just don't know better, you tend to want to educate them on why it's bad and how you wouldn't want someone to kill and eat you. But you don't go at it like, oh, you evil person, you chose to eat other animals, and you speciesist, you.
Right. Ronnie, I wanted to hear your take on this. So, you kind of understand, how, to the extent we overcome this belief in free will, and I'm not saying that it's easy, because it's not. In other words, there's one thing to understand that we have a free will. It's another thing, more challenging, to understand it so well that we can incorporate it into our lives. But how does this sound so far as a strategy, for not becoming angry at people because of what they do? Because we're all imperfect, we make mistakes. So how does this sound so far?
Well, I'm wondering, honestly, what do you mean by blame? Do you think that blame is a bad thing?
Guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, George.
I think Ronnie cut out. I cut out.
Oh, hold on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I still hear Ronnie.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was asking if blame is a bad thing. And yeah.
Well, all right. Let's define blame. Yeah.
Well, no. Don't define it. Just answer. Is it a bad thing?
Oh, it is. Yes, because blame. The reason it's bad is because, when we blame people, we attribute something some immorality to them, and because and it's wrong. It's a wrong attribution. In other words, like because they don't have a free will, it's wrong to blame them for something that they absolutely had to do and they had no choice over in any way.
Okay, so if we assume that people have no free will, then is it also wrong to blame the thief for stealing?
Absolutely, Matt. We're not. Chandler, why don't you address this? Yeah.
Yeah. See, here's the interesting thing, Ronnie, and here's what's confusing is I do think it is important that we talk about what we mean when we talk about blame, because there's two things people tend to mean. And the type of blame that's bad is when we're like, oh, you're an evil person, you did this bad thing and I'm going to punish you. And then it just puts them on the defensive and leads them to justify what they did and all that. What's interesting is that some people think of blame as just identifying a problem and fixing it, but what's interesting is the kind we're talking about. It's bad to blame people in the sense of like, well, they're bad, they deserve punishment, because that's what we're taught.
Chandler, I want to go further than that. In other words, like, because basically the free will paradigm comes with a nomenclature, these terms that they're not really so accurate. So in other words, like, rather than blaming people, we move from blaming to identifying them as the source of whatever was done wrong. Because it's not like we can allow people to continue doing what was wrong, but we do it without blaming them at all. Again, we identify them.
Is a thief not the source of theft?
Well, no, that's the thing. In other words, like the thief is the person we identify as the most proximate cause of the theft. And
the thief is the only cause of theft. If you have a thief, you don't have a theft.
But Ronnie, what this whole paradigm shift is about is like when we understand that everything has a cause. So yes, the thief was the cause of the theft, but then there was a cause that caused the thief to steal, and there was a cause for that. So that's why
prior to the stealing, the thief was not a thief.
Say that again?
Prior to stealing, the thief was not a thief.
No, but this even goes beyond that. So let's say he, prior to stealing, but he stole something. He definitely stole something. So, we need our laws and our rules and stuff. We can't let him go away scot-free. But if we don't blame him.
If you don't let him go away scot-free, then you're blaming him for what he's done.
All right, not necessarily. David, can you try to express what I'm trying to say, in a different way?
No. No.
Well,
I think what we're trying to say is that if you've got someone who's stealing something, we're not going to blame them for stealing something because there were causal events that led up to them committing that crime. But what we are going to do is deal with the fact that they are stealing things. So that's a problem.
And we're going to rehabilitate them so they won't reoffend.
Yeah. So even though they're not...
It's still an acknowledgement that he's a thief.
Yeah,
sure. He can be a thief. We just don't blame him for being.
The consequences of our actions. That's what we're saying. It's
you have to blame him for stealing, or else he wouldn't be a thief to be rehabilitated.
No. I mean, someone can be a murderer, but you don't have to blame them.
Blame him for the murder. You have to say he did it in order to say there is a murderer to be rehabilitated.
Well,
yeah. This example I like to use.
Let David continue. Jamie, hold on, guys. Let David continue. Let David continue. He was about to explain it. Hold on, Jamie. You can go after David. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can jump in and save me in a minute. Right. So, say someone murders someone, and we class them as a murderer. We just don't blame them for being a murderer. Yes, but we don't blame them for it.
How do you not blame somebody for a murder and have him still be a murderer?
Because it wasn't his idea to murder him.
It wasn't his
idea.
Yeah.
How did that, why wasn't it his idea?
Because he's not the first cause of it.
But he is the only cause of murder.
No, Ronnie. Nobody could be the first cause of murder because that implies that murder did not exist before that person existed.
A murder didn't exist until he murdered somebody.
All right, Ronnie, this goes back to everything has a cause, right?
Right. Well, look, the murder doesn't make the person. That's true.
No, but what they're
But
trying
the
to say is
person
that the murderer is
doesn't
going to
kill a murderer, but only by murdering.
next to
Right.
it up.
The person doesn't
Ronnie,
murder.
I think Jamie can explain it. Go ahead, Jamie.
Right.
Right. Here's the example I like to use. Right. A lot of murderers, right? When you hear stories about people like mass murdering with a gun or a knife, or whatever, a lot of them are use the insanity plead in court, don't they? Like not guilty by rule of insanity. Now, just because they're insane, it doesn't mean we should let them go free. We still have to lock these people up in mental institutions and keep society safe from any further harm that they could cause. But we're still, acknowledging the fact these people are messed up in the head, and there were reasons for why they were messed up. Like with psychopaths, they're unable to feel empathy for other people, and so they're not going to feel guilty for doing, such and such.
Jamie, excellent explanation. Ronnie, does that make sense?
It seems like you guys are trying to apply bad to blame, as if blame itself is a bad thing, but blame itself is not necessarily.
And let me explain this. You're right. So let's say the thief or the criminal is a 2-year-old. Okay, now we don't attribute free will to a 2-year-old. We understand a 2-year-old doesn't know any better. So this 2-year-old stole something that wasn't his.
Better doesn't mean you don't have free will.
Hold on, Ronnie. Let me finish. So basically, a 2-year-old, we understand that 2-year-old stole something. It belonged to another kid, and the little 2-year-old went off with it. But because the little kid, the 2-year-old, doesn't know any better because he's just a toddler, and we identify him, and we've got to teach him not to steal, but we'll do it with much more kindness. In other words, we're not going to blame him hostily and we're going to try, if we're smart and if we're wise and if we're good, we're going to try to very calmly, respectfully, and kindly explain to him why what he did was wrong, and to help him to reform and all. So basically what we're suggesting is we are as innocent as that 2-year-old because we don't have a free will. People who steal, they don't understand apparently fully the consequence of what they're doing. So we don't let them get away with it, but we treat them with the respect and the kindness and compassion and intelligence that we would apply to a toddler.
So modern
people can only do wrong if they don't know that they're doing wrong.
No. In other words, sometimes a person may do wrong and he knows he's doing wrong, but he might have, for example, let's say he steals from a company, and he might say to himself, well, you want to know something? This company is ripping me off, not paying me enough, or charging too much for its products. So sometimes people know that they're doing something quote unquote wrong, but they justify it for perhaps with another reason.
And we should be nice to people who do that?
We should be nice to everyone. Now, that doesn't mean we shouldn't punish them. Chandler, you want to follow up on that?
Yeah, sure. We're not saying that you just let murderers go around murdering and let thieves steal and all that. We're not saying that you just let that continue.
We're saying that you can't blame them, and if there's no blame, then why is what they did wrong?
Well, here's the deal. It's wrong what they did, but we're not blaming them because blame is a useless thing. Blame is a useless thing. See, basically, blame, here's a good example.
Let's look up the definition of blame, actually. Let's look it up.
See, originally she said let's not define it, but we have to.
Right, that's good, absolutely.
Right,
Ronnie,
we definitely have to define it because, see, and I'm going by what a lot of people mean when they say blame because, I actually have an example to use involving a bike. If anyone wants me to use that example.
I've got the definition real quick.
All right, yeah, hold up. Right, before you start, Ronnie, what's the definition? Yeah.
Okay.
Blame is to assign responsibility for a fault or wrong. So blame.
I can't hear what you're saying.
Blame is to assign ability for, or no, it's not ability. Assign responsibility for a fault or a wrong. Now, blame itself, as you can see, just by its definition, does not mean to be mean to people. It just means to say, hey, you are responsible for something.
Ronnie, that's excellent. That's an excellent point. So, all right, but here's the thing. So, like, can you define responsibility for us?
Okay. But we've already established that blame isn't itself right or wrong. So let me get the definition of responsibility.
Well, we haven't actually established that blame isn't right or wrong. We're actually saying it's wrong, and I think.
The question is it wrong to assign responsibility? That's the question. Is it wrong?
Yeah, Chandler, according to that definition, Ronnie's right. Jamie, go ahead.
Yeah, it depends how you use blame, because if you're using blame for the sake of revenge and stuff like that, that's not going to change the fact that the wrong already happened.
That's going beyond blame. That's going beyond blame into something else, which would be vengeance.
Great point. So basically, according to Ronnie's definition, yeah, the way Ronnie used that dictionary does not assign wrongness or right. So what's responsibility? What's the definition of that?
Responsibility says the state or fact of having a duty to deal with something or of having control over someone. Well, and that's one definition. That one doesn't seem to apply to what we're saying. So there's a second one here that says the state of being accountable or to blame for something. Okay, I guess the first definition works a little bit better.
Ronnie, this is good. You're kind of like highlighting something that like we're not addressing.
Yeah. It's definitely good.
Hold on, Chandler. When we talk about blame and responsibility, we're talking about it being negative. But like you just like defined both blame and responsibility from dictionaries that don't attribute this negativity. So I think you're focusing in. Yeah, go ahead.
You have to have a balance of the positive and negative on the term of blame, because blame actually has its own meaning. When you focus on a negative view of something, that's all you're going to get. You're going to keep going into that negative view. So, for example, if you think that blame is bad and you go on, then you're going to say that vengeance is bad. Well, vengeance is, of course, bad because blame is bad.
Right, okay.
But then you're also attributing a negative definition to vengeance. Vengeance, for example, or revenge, could just mean to obtain. Let me actually look that up first before I give a definition.
Yeah, and Chandler, and after Chandler, I want to hear your example though, because we can apply this to it once Ronnie gives us that definition.
Yes, and I'm glad she's using a dictionary. I'm actually curious, Ronnie, what dictionary are you looking at?
I'm just using Google.
Oh yeah, well that works.
Chandler, we're going to have to change our site. I mean, with my book, with our website, it says like it's going to reduce blame and arrogance.
All right. The definition of revenge, and I'll have a short explanation after this, is the action of inflicting hurt or harm on someone for an injury or wrong suffered at their hands. Now, you can look at that and you can look at it in a negative light. Or you can think about the times, for example, let's say an arsonist burns down your house. Is it wrong to get revenge by suing him for what he's done?
You have to look at it from an objective standpoint, because vengeance for the sake of vengeance doesn't address why the crime happened in the first place. I mean, you don't leave your doors and windows open.
Vengeance can only be done if the crime happens at all.
Ronnie, could you define that one more time, just to be very clear about it?
Okay. Vengeance or revenge is the action of inflicting hurt or harm on someone for an injury or wrong. Now, what you think of hurt or wrong to you is different than what's hurt or wrong to, say, the arsonist who burned down your house. The arsonist who burned down your house is going to say it would be hurtful to try and get money from me to make me pay for the damage that I've done. But that's just a negative on his part. He doesn't want to have actually any responsibility for what he's done.
Yeah,
but it's not wrong for somebody to sue somebody else for burning down their house.
Or for the courts and the police to apprehend them and punish the person.
Right.
You're absolutely
Even
right.
though that would be revenge by definition.
Interesting. So you're right. We were kind of like defining these terms just as a negative. And what dictionary are you using? Because that sounds like a very good dictionary.
Just Google.
All right. So we're making progress here. Chandler, do you want to apply? Let's apply the example that you want.
Yes, I have this example. Okay, so some people, they gave me this bike a while back, But this bike, for whatever reason, after it goes over a big bump or something, then the chain sometimes comes off. So the chain sometimes comes off on this bike, and this is a bad thing because, well, then I can't put up the brakes on it. It's potentially dangerous. But when this does happen occasionally, I try to get to a safe place, and then I have to turn the bike upside down, get the chain back on there, roll the wheel, and get it back on. But here's the deal. Now, there's something that's clearly wrong with this bike, how it does this occasionally. However, I don't blame the bike. I don't punish this bike and like, oh, you bad bike, you bad chain, you fell off, and what are you trying to do? Are you trying to kill me? And, cause here's the deal. That's what I'm saying is that we understand that something went wrong with this bike. And what I'm saying is when something goes wrong with human beings, something went wrong in machinery somewhere. Something is wrong in something that happened, whether it's just a chemical thing in their brain or whether it's the way they were taught that was wrong or some combination of prior causes, biology and environment, that led them to the murder or the thief or the arson or something like that. So I very much view it as a thing like there's a problem that needs to be fixed, and like with a computer program also, when something goes wrong, a program crashes, well, you don't blame that program and said, oh, you're responsible, program, for crashing or for not doing this thing right, and so you're accountable and I'm going to sue you.
All right.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Roni. How's your response to that? What's your response? Yeah.
The problem is that you're comparing something that does not have a human will to something that does. Certainly, the bike has no choice but to be a bike, And it's true that humans have no choice but to be humans, and the bike has no choice if it falls apart. There's no human will involved. But human beings do have choices to do something right or to do something wrong. That's why responsibility, accountability, blame, and revenge come in the first place, because there was a choice in the first place to do something wrong.
Excellent point, Roni. So now where we are now, so like, fine, we people, we hold them responsible.
If the bike had an ability to be malicious toward you, you would probably get mad at the bike.
All right, Roni, what we something wrong? Clearly, like.
Hold on just a second. The sound is cutting out. I'm gonna get a drink real quick, actually.
Yeah, George, your connection is terrible today.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but ever since that you've been at the same apartment or whatever as Nick, your internet connection has just been awful.
Nick, mute your mic. Nick, is your mic muted? It's muted. All right. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna try to get on a computer and log back on. You guys, I'll be back in about 3 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, so anyway, I think I can continue. Like, basically, what Roni's saying is she's saying there's a difference between a bike and a computer program and a human. She's saying that a human has a choice, whereas a bike doesn't, for example. Is that what you're saying, Roni?
I am.
Okay, and this is very important, guys, because what we're seeing is that the idea, the concept that people have a responsibility or accountability is very much tied in with this idea of choice, that they had a choice. And Roni, when you're talking about a choice, do you mean the choice as in they could have done otherwise?
No, I just mean a choice, period.
So what do you mean by choice?
I have a choice, for example, to raise my right hand or to raise my left hand. But even if I don't, I have a choice to do that. It's all a choice.
So in your view...
There's no attribution of right or wrong, because a choice in itself is never right or wrong. It's the morality that comes in later is actually whether or not the choice itself, what the result of that choice were. For example, you would say that it's wrong if I made a choice to try and stab you because it hurts you, because you think that you getting hurt is wrong. But it wasn't the choice. It was the choice of stabbing.
Right. So what you're saying is that when we talk about the morality of something, it has to do with the effect that that so-called choice has. You're saying, so it's not,
Usually.
yeah,
Not necessarily. But
it's not that you're, so it's more like you're saying, well, it's not your choice to stab me that's wrong, but the fact that I don't like being stabbed that makes it wrong.
Isn't that usually how it is?
Yeah, that's usually how it's wrong. The reason it's wrong is because somebody doesn't want to be stabbed. Hey, George, are you back? Ronnie was just talking about stabbing me.
I'm back. No, you don't want to stab people.
No, I don't like stabbing people.
Yeah.
I'm a pacifist at heart.
Yeah, me too, Ronnie. Yeah. It's really funny. So yeah, George, we were
stab you with my white flag. How's that?
Yeah, well, yeah. See, well, okay. Ronnie was saying she has a choice. She has a choice to lift her right hand or left hand or neither hand, or to stab me, basically.
Or both hands. I mean,
Yeah.
I got hands.
Guys, we've got about 3 minutes left. I have a feeling we should do a part 2 to this because we're getting somewhere in terms of terminology. It's very important to get this right. So, like, when I was gone, so like basically, right. Ronnie, what is what we do wrong? What part of, like, in other words, like when we attribute free will to others, you know, what is it? It's not blame, it's not responsibility, it's not vengeance.
But so it is blame and it is responsibility. It's just not always the bad blame and the bad responsibility.
All right. Another. So how would you distinguish between the way we treat a toddler, which is like with kindness and understanding, and the way we treat adults? And so, like, this is in other words, what is the harm that free will belief causes?
What is the harm? Free will? I don't know. I think that everybody has free will, so I guess that's a little bit of a difference, isn't it?
All right. Actually, that's interesting. All right, so maybe rather than doing part 2 immediately after this, let's go to the basic exploration of whether we have a free will or not in the next episode. And if you stick around for a third one, then we'll address the part 2 of, like, why, you know, if we don't have a free will, you know how the free will belief leads us to mistreat some people. Chandler, we got about like 45 seconds. You want to end this?
Yeah. Okay. You've been listening to Free Will, Science, and Religion, and we've been talking with our new guest, Roni Cairns, or Cairns. How do you say that, Ronnie?
However you like.
What?
However you like.
Okay, however you like it. Okay, anyway, we've been talking with our new guest, Ronnie, and about responsibility, and that seems to be very much tied in with the notion of choice. So in our next episode, we're going to talk more about that. So stick around and listen to the next episode.